Welcome, listeners, to the Traveler Chronicles, where the enchanting world of Extraeus comes to life. I'm Dungeon Master Eguile, your guide through the pivotal scenes in our thrilling Dungeons & Dragons homebrew campaign. Join us as we embark on adventures with the Travelers, a diverse group of heroes, each with their own unique reason for traveling the world. Together we'll explore the rich lore and vibrant landscapes of Extraeus, filled with magic, mystery, and unforgettable moments. And don't miss out on our special segment, Traveler's Tidings with Luna, where reporter Luna, played by my wonderful wife, D&D wife, interviews intriguing characters from our world, bringing their stories to life in delightful, immersive conversations. Whether you're a seasoned dungeon master seeking inspiration or a newcomer eager to dive into a fantastical journey, the Traveler Chronicles has something for everyone. So grab your gear and prepare for adventure. The world of Extraeus awaits. Welcome, adventurers, to the Traveler Chronicles. Tonight we're doing something a little different, a special review episode where we look back at some of our favorite moments from the campaign and take a peek into what lies ahead.
That's right. We're diving into the Tournament of Strength, especially the incredible victories from the second round, and uncovering some secrets that DM Eguile kept hidden from the players until now.
Plus, we'll reflect on how the party has grown, share some of the behind-the-scenes stories, and tease some upcoming episodes for next year. So grab your dice, get comfortable, and let's jump into the world of Extraeus. Obviously, with the end of the year, as it always seems to be with most stories, it's a time, right? It's a time to do the best of the 2024, you know. So we wanted this to be kind of a special review episode.
Best moments of.
No special reports from Luna having her take the night off.
Oh yeah, she's on holiday right now.
Right, yeah, she just got done with her second round of battle. You know,
she's recuperating somewhere.
But I feel like this was a good point, as many of the kind of little stories we've been telling so far in the Traveler's Chronicles have all been going on around the Tournament of Strength, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the main focal point, but it's merely, like in many video games, like the thing that moves the time, right? So it's like, we have all this time, one round, okay.
Then time goes
by, next round.
Yeah.
And so that really kind of is the next point, as the second round, as we learn later, the final round, it really is kind of the tipping point of the story, as this last round, this kind of last sign of victory of our young travelers really set the stage for almost the kind of beginning of our grand story. Really kind of what I was calling the end of the prologue, essentially.
It's, the little intro paragraph, and then this was kind of the start of the meat of the story.
And so if you're new listening to us, if you've never heard of Traveler's Chronicles, essentially what we're doing here is we recap the story of our homebrew campaign set in our homeworld of Extraeus, with a group of adventurers, 6 players, known as the Travelers. Currently, they are in a giant festival in this town known as Arnknoka. And as we've been listening, they've been getting into all kinds of problems, both financially and culturally, step by step.
Fun shenanigans.
As you mostly see from homebrew worlds. If this is something you're interested in or something you like, please be sure to subscribe, leave reviews, join our Discord community for all those extra little early tidbits and behind the scenes, as well as chatting with us directly.
Yeah, you can always ask us questions.
As well as if you have any comments for the players themselves, you can always find them online. But first, to set the stage, just to kind of give context, we can kind of look at the Tournament of Strength. Now, we had introduced this a few episodes ago, and that this was kind of this grand vision for the Mirren to show their strength
and unity.
But in reality, was really the Dungeon Master's ability to get you guys to learn how to play.
Yeah, it's a brand new homebrew world, and we all have to, even myself as the wife of the Dungeon Master, has to figure out how this world functions and how the rules work.
Right, and I feel like, it's that whole, like, there's maybe 10 different versions of starting a campaign, right? You woke up with no memories, you're in a tavern, you're on the road, you're all prisoners, a tournament arc. So we decided to kind of use that to start. But the funny thing that I had is that there was actually a much more hidden thing going on in the background. Now, I've told you before recording a little bit about this, which you had not known about this before.
No.
So in the very beginning, so when this fight happened, now the party was told, it's a low risk. There's no murder, no death. But there was a event that would happen upon the party fighting each other. As much as I love battle royales, low-level characters fighting against themselves just
kind of dumb.
Right. It's not quite something I was.
It's not the spectacle that you're thinking of when you think battle royale.
Yeah, and especially with where we have kind of a mix of players who don't know how to play that all ended up on one team, and so it's you don't want to make it where it's okay, well, now I'm just going to have animosity. So the whole plan was that there was this big event that was going to happen if the parties were to meet up with each other. Now there was 3 scenarios, right? So there was a scenario where if only one party entered, the tournament would go off completely. Yeah. No issue. There would be no grand event.
Oh, okay.
Of this surprise event.
That's good to know.
Now, both parties came in. If the parties ever faced each other, it would activate the grand event.
Oh, my.
Now, so that means if one of the parties happened to fail and then it became only one party left, then they would still keep going. And then obviously the grand event wouldn't happen if neither team joined.
Yeah.
So it made this interesting scenario left entirely up to you guys. So when you guys first won, chose to submit 2 teams rather than 1, and you guys were on the fence.
Yeah, Luna did not want to join.
Tobias were both the ones who were we don't really want to do this.
Luna's not very strong, and she was seeing a lot of swords and a lot of weapons, and she was like, I don't think this is for me.
Right, and it was kind of funny too, because in the background side, it was the 2 magic users that were we're not going to be a part of this.
We can't do this. This is literally called the Tournament of Strength.
Right, so I thought that was quite interesting, because already a scenario was being hatched that would not allow this event to happen.
Yeah.
So then the secondary part of that is if you guys faced each other. Now the way I set this up was you guys were assigned numbers and you rolled dice to determine who you would go against. So it was again left up to be completely random,
completely a chance
to the decision of the players. So as we kept going, the first round didn't fight each other.
Nope.
Second round didn't fight each other. Third round had to. Finals.
Yeah, we were in finals.
So it made it where there was this interesting situation where it kind of determined how many days you would have in Arnknoka.
That's true.
So I wanted to have it be where it's okay, do they get a lot of time? Because one of the big niches I have as a dungeon master is I like time to be real in the game. I like
to have consequence.
I always hated, in Skyrim or games like that where, you get a quest at level 1 and then you're like, oh, I'm going to go back and do it.
Yeah.
And the level 2 bandit is still sitting there,
waiting,
still threatening to to kill his hostage 8 years since you've been playing, right? And to me, it was always ridiculous.
The Stockholm syndrome must be real.
So they're, they kidnapped a child. Now they're a young adult. It's been so long.
Right.
It's so in my world, time passes and time is important. So I wanted it to be okay, well, here's an option for them to get a lot of time. Will they get to the end of the festival and see the little funny gag
awesome
at the end?
things at the end, yeah.
Or will it, right off the bat, are they
Kick
just
off.
going to not even get an opportunity to see a thing, but go straight into this conflict and the story kind of ramping up? And I think it really is interesting that we went all the way through the luck of the dice to the finals.
Yeah.
So you guys really got the maximum amount of time it could take to explore and get into trouble.
Right. It was really fun. We got to see pretty much everything you could see in the tournament grounds. But I was super surprised to hear that you had done this. You just told me this 2 minutes ago, but I didn't even know that it was an element. But looking back on it now, just thinking about how it would have been if, let's say, it had kicked off right off the bat, how different our party dynamics would have been, or just what decisions we would have made. Because really being in the tournament, being at Arnknoka and sort of meandering around together in various groups of 2s, 3s, changing it up, it really helped us learn who we were as characters, as people in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And so it helped build those initial bonds. I don't think we could have been as cohesive of a team if we hadn't spent time together like that.
Yeah, and I think there's also a lot of instances with NPCs that got interacted with that very well could have changed kind of where we see later in the story the party go to. I think if Lady Kree had never been met.
Oh, I know.
That could have led to an entirely changing.
We might have never known where the Kenku live, where they are, who they are.
Learned anything about them.
Yeah, at all.
And so that's really interesting, and so when we get to the tournament itself is kind of that same kind of show, right? Obviously, as a DM, you want your players to feel powerful, but it really showed how, given this being our third campaign, you guys, as well as the new players, really kind of made sure that your players were built right, built for tough.
Yeah.
And so as we saw in the second rounds of battle, we saw the team of Bogbean, Bricky, and Tobias going against a triplet of Minotaurs, which in our world are the largest of the Mirrans,
huge,
these beefcakes,
towering,
these huge enforcers. And in that fight, we watched as we got to see again the semblance of teamwork being built amongst the players, with Luna providing a little bit of poison tonics. And this was kind of the starting of the subtle reveal of that Luna doesn't just make healing potions; she also makes hurting ones too. Which at that point hadn't really been revealed that you had two professions. Which has probably not been completely revealed yet.
I still think to this day they don't know I made that poison. I just handed it out, so it could have just been something on my person.
It's really an interesting way to see. And then what ends up happening is, we have Bogbean, who is this barbarian enforcer, going down relatively early with Tobias. So you have your barbarian and your cleric dropping fairly early, but luckily, with this kind of homebrew class that Bricky is, they got to discover even more to the mystery of Bricky's powers when he suddenly kind of overcharges and is able to, in the last bit of moment of strength, take down the remaining Minotaur.
Yeah, truly a Hail Mary.
Right, and it totally clutch. And again, which makes it hilarious, leaving this kind of like, what are you kind of instance with a creature who's claiming to be a bard.
Yeah, right.
And then we get our second fight, which was even more interesting, in my opinion, where we have the fight with Luna, Drexla, and Captain V, where you are fighting Leonin. Now, this is interesting because obviously a party member is Leonin and hasn't really shared much story about their kindred spirit. But the entire time that the Tournament of Power, or Strength, has been going on, it has been, like you had said, nothing but physical strength. But we saw in this fight a complete change as these Leonin were capable of Eldritch Blasts, which outside of the game, you guys all started being like, wait, these guys are warlocks?
Yeah.
And then inside the game, it was Leonin capable of magic.
Yeah.
Which I think put you in an interesting point, because during this time, you had been struggling really hard with Luna to not be casting magic, though you were capable of it.
I was trying not to. I was trying to keep low radar, especially knowing that the Mirran continent is not known for its high magic. So I wanted to really keep like a low profile there, but it became impossible to do when in that round of the tournament we faced off against not one but three full opponents that could all cast.
Yeah, I mean, they're slinging spells, Eldritch Blast. I mean, I remember, I think it was Captain V went down first, and just because being the squishy rogue and kind of being the comical one that tends to drop first. Then kind of being with Luna in this desperation with Drexla trying to like keep a high vantage point. It was that interesting moment where I'm kind of looking at it like, oh, is she gonna do it? She's gonna cast magic? She's gonna cast? And you kind of forcing yourself to cast a couple of crackles out there, which is one of your favorite spells. But it was entertaining, as the moment you did that, you were instantly dropped the next round.
Oh yeah, I made myself the biggest target on the board. I did a huge, for being low level, and for also being in this tournament in a continent that's not known for its high magic, to cast such a high level second level crackle is just insane. So it looked like a god landed,
So it made it for an interesting fight, because then again, we had another fight where poor little Drexla, this little 1 foot tall fairy, is trying to dodge Eldritch Blast while firing a crossbow, gun at them, and trying to do her best, but ends up coming again with the victory at the last moment. Essentially, like one more blast would have taken her out.
Yeah, it was neck and neck.
But again, claiming victory, and in turn, for me, realizing that we would be activating this big grand event that would be going, since now the very next day of the tournament would go down no matter what.
Yep.
So I think that leads for an interesting part, because though obviously, it's hard to sit here and give the play-by-play for combat in D&D.
It's tough.
I mean, we record these things, but not like the level of Critical Role.
Yeah.
So, giving just kind of a brief description of our combat just really kind of just shows a little bit of what we've experienced. But there are so many moments that I think we've had now with our, about 6 months now of running the Traveler's Chronicles and telling our stories. And we've only really barely scratched the surface. Like I was saying earlier, I always call this our prologue.
Yeah.
And once this event happens, that really, I think, began to drive the story. But this was a really cool way to show this long-winded tutorial that allowed, people who have never played ever a game before in their life, and people who had been playing for 30 years to all relearn a new form of D&D.
Yeah, because even though we did have veterans who'd been playing for a long time, everyone at the table was new to Extraeus. So we all had to learn how to play in the world. It was really nice to grow together and not feel, it was really nice to not feel like those who had more experience had a leg up or something, because that's always usually the case when there's new players coming in and there's veterans at the table. It always feels like they have a little bit more of a leg up.
Yeah, I think that was like one of the more favorite moments, is that every time it was an opportunity to kind of spin the wheel, right? So when the party first met, like the Kenku, and it being so different from the campaign, from D&D's style of Kenku, I really like that, because every time new players go, oh, I know what this is about, and whereas you have new players that are like, oh, I think I saw that in the book and I didn't really read. No matter what, they're all coming into it new, and each of the expressions and the actions that each kind of came forth were priceless.
Absolutely. It's just fun to be like, oh, I know what this does, and then have your perspective completely changed because it's different than you ever expected.
Yeah, and for me, I think as a dungeon master, I think my favorite part, and it sounds weird, it's just really the introduction. I've really gotten to love kind of the multi-tier introductions that I've been doing now for these last few campaigns. I did the same thing in campaign 2 and kind of perfected it with this kind of multi-level ways of having a party meet up. I really love that the way that the travelers initially meet up isn't just this like everyone got a letter,
right? Or you're at the tavern,
everybody's best friends.
Yeah,
it really shows. And if you were listening in the first few episodes, just how, even though probably these people shouldn't be friends or shouldn't really have anything to do with each other, as we've been listening in the kind of the trials and the issues and kind of the experiences, they're really forming that found family. And as the campaign goes on, it only gets stronger, even though a lot of them cause a lot of the conflict themselves.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of conversation to be had about some of our more erratic party members that tend to fly off the handle a little bit.
So for you, I mean, what do you feel is at least the year review for Luna as you have been kind of trying this kind of new take on a magic user?
I have just really enjoyed playing the class I'm playing. Nobody knows what it is because I still haven't told. Nobody knows what I am at the table or anybody who's listening. But it's been really fun playing this homebrew class in a new homebrew world that I helped create. It gives the when you first discover a new video game vibe where it's all exploratory, and sure, it's challenging and frustrating sometimes when you don't get the mechanics right away or something, but it always feels rewarding at the end of the day. Once you're done playing or something, you'll be like, I accomplished this. I did something in this game, time passed and I did things. And so that's been really amazing to see just the progression of our characters in the world, as well as we learn how to play in it, and just how our characters live their lives. It's been fantastic to see that growth.
Yeah, for me, I think this has also been a campaign where I really have to expect the unexpected, as lame as that sounds. I mean, I think just given from the very first, I think, 30 minutes of the campaign with Bogbean eating Miguel's tail.
Oh, yeah.
That moment, I think you and I looked at each other at the table, and it was just like, this is going to be the greatest campaign we've ever done.
Yeah, it's so organic.
Because it was so awesome in the sense that you and I knew the context of it. The players did not.
Nope.
And so when it came and it really showed me that why people do homebrew, because that was so awesome of an experience for everyone to learn the significance of something that they thought was mundane. They thought they were doing the better of options. Right. And it ended up being the single worst one. And ever since then, I think all 6 of you have been ready for anything. And instead of having this idea of trying to plan things and trying to know, okay, we know if it's this thing, we'll do this.
We got to make sure.
More of, buckle your seatbelt, get on the train, and just see what's going to happen. Now, I say train not in the terms of like choo-choo, like railroading, but in terms of that this thing can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Your destinations are endless. The stops are wherever you want to go, and you guys were the conductors.
Yeah.
And I think, especially in the Arnknoka, it really showed, because I loved, a big fear of, I think, a lot of DMs is the unwillingness to explore when it's unknown. And that was
because we're so worried.
That was a big worry of mine, was, oh man, it's so unknown. You're so terrified.
We're not going to want to go outside. Yeah.
But as we've heard, and as you guys have listened, thankfully, for all these episodes now, as this is episode 10 of our second season,
we kept going.
Yeah, we see that, they are going out. They're having these kooky adventures. They're learning about each other. They're forging bonds, as well as kind of issues with each other that are real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's only, I think, a long future for the Travelers, both in the campaign and outside the campaign.
I think so. I'm having such a blast with the players, the characters, the story. I just hope it goes on for a long time.
So, as a player, what would you take to be your favorite story moment so far in the Arnknoka chapter?
Oh my, that's probably been our arrival at Arnknoka, just because it had been such a thing that we talked about on the road, and then when you described sort of the trees, this oppressive tree line opening up into this clearing, and described what the festival grounds look like, it just drove it home, oh, this is real. The campaign is starting. We're in a place. This is an important place, and the story is going. And so I think that was just my moment where I was like, okay, this is where it starts. You can settle into your character now and play the game.
Yeah, it's like that thing where it's like, I always imagine as you're coming over, a big Hans Zimmer score is playing. For me, because I don't know, I'm one of those DMs that I feel like I always visualize the scenes, and I can feel like I can see the movie in my head. Yeah. And it really is so many moments. Really, Traveler's Chronicle itself is me telling you of all my favorite moments. And so every time you listen to these episodes, just know that these are my favorites. The ones that stuck out to me because my players are having fun, we're having fun, and we're really going to what I feel is the root of true kind of TTRPG, and that is, there are rules, but at the end of the day, we're here to just have fun, explore, and just experience a new world that we couldn't do right now.
Right. I think that's a nice takeaway from it. We want to just make sure we have a blast, and I think this has been really conducive to that. I would recommend homebrew if anybody else out there was on the fence.
It's rough, right? It's rough to start, but once it's like a child. Once you start seeing it walk, it goes crazy fast, but you can be nothing but proud of what it is.
Yeah, it's just growing all on its own.
And so obviously, as a year review, we only hope for Extraeus to keep growing, our adventurers to keep adventuring, but just to give a little bit of the kind of look to the future.
What's happening?
As we get closer to the grand event, we'll be looking at things like Bricky'S sudden disappearance.
Oh my!
Now, obviously, Bricky'S had a lot of mystery around him, with there not being much information.
Does he know the Smiley Man? Does he not know the Smiley Man?
Whose side is he really on? And his sudden disappearance correlating with the players' unable to arrive to a session
Right.
allowed for a lot more of the story to build without him actually being there.
Oh, yeah.
We're also going to look into Bogbean's training arc. What is not a D&D story without a training
Full
montage? With Bogbean learning to not be so feral in
Yeah.
terms of her style of combat.
Be more calculated in her combat.
But in traditional Ferris Bueller method, she, of course, has to run late.
Absolutely.
But then also we have the grand event, the curtain rise, as it is called, and the return of Dr. Matthias. And we're going to see a lot more as to that this individual is going to be a lot more than just a nuisance character and is much more of a threat than they realize altogether.
Yep.
But really, I can't thank everyone enough for who's listening out there. I know we're small. I know we're that in a sea of everything, but every listen, every download, every stream is just another thank you that we cannot appreciate
It's
enough.
amazing. Thank you so much. We also encourage you guys to stay tuned for more of our thrilling episodes coming up, as well as unique role play moments that we showcase on these episodes. It's going to be really amazing. We hope you stick around.
So, and as always, if you have any favorite moments of your own, any highlight reels, have you been running a campaign for the last year? What are some of the big moments that you want to share? Jump on over to the Couple of Nerds Discord. We have plenty of different channels, chat groups. Sometimes you'll catch Etlink or D&D Wife streaming, and various different ways that you can come and share our growing community. But as always, thanks again for joining us on this very special episode of the Traveler's Chronicles. We hope you enjoyed looking back at the Tournament of Strength and all the surprises we've gotten into along the way.
And don't forget, the adventure is far from over. Join us next time as we dive into more mysteries and thrilling stories from Extraeus.
Until then, may your dice rolls be ever in your favor and your adventures be legendary. Good night, adventurers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us on this episode of the Traveler Chronicles. We hope you enjoyed your journey through the world of Extraeus and the adventures of the travelers themselves. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us continue to bring the magic of Extraeus to life. Want to be part of the story? Join our community on Discord, where you can chat with us and the travelers themselves. Share your own adventures and dive even deeper into the world of Extraeus. Don't forget to check out our videos on the Couple of Nerds YouTube page for even more content, including behind-the-scenes looks, painting tutorials by D&D Wife, and so much more. Thank you for being a part of our adventure. So keep rolling those dice, and may your journeys be filled with wonder and excitement. Till next time, on the next episode of the Traveler Chronicles.